she like I've been itching to tell her this. Like when G first started this journey, and I was also following you, HV. From the second I heard G's first episode, when it was just alienation at the time, I was like, oh, I see where he's going with this. And we had talked about it for a long time, just having conversations, phone combos, and different things. But as soon as it started and I saw, okay, this is going to be a thing. We're both into this. This is going to be a thing. And I said, you've got to meet her, and she's got to meet you. And the first episode that you guys had was amazing. It was awesome. And I took so much from it.
That's a lot of that's a lot on I would say, I'm on a lot of shows, but sometimes certain shows we go way deeper and different than usual. So I gotta give props to you on that one too, Chief. I mean, alienation, I think you're already like exploring broadly and deeply, but I think when I was on, I really enjoyed the types of questions that you asked and like where you let me go. Because sometimes people are like, whoa, that's too crazy. But I feel like you were like, bring it.
Yeah,
now to come on and now to see you guys doing this together, I think awesome. Very cool. Good job.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Absolutely. It sort of grew into this thing with us, with the balancing act, which is, I love alienation, and I told G that, but when he introduced the idea to me, when I was going to be taking a bigger hosting role in a sense, I was like, oh, that's perfect as far as how we both believe in, the duality of things. So that's the logos black and white, and we're kind of his balance and my balance to him. Cause sometimes looking out into this abyss of the matrix, I can be a little bit more pessimistic than him, in a healthy pessimism, but obviously that's sort of how I approach things in a way. And G he always brings me back to love, and that's why it's the perfect balance there. So
at the end of the day, I think that's that's it. It's like, so we can be centered in one thing. And what's that thing? I think like a true love. And I don't know if we're even really told what real love is these days. I think the Disney version and the Hollywood version is really bastardized in a way. Like we're given an idea, but I think like what love really is, and do I know the definition of that? I'm not sure if I really do.
Me either.
But I think we can all feel it. I think that's more of something that eventually we'll tap into.
Yeah.
I think it's related to surrender and like sacrifice, and unconditional, I think, is the real aspect of real love. What Disney and our society makes it is like, I'll love you if you show me a certain amount of love.
Then, only then.
There's always this like balancing act going on.
Back to the balancing act. Yeah, it really is. That's swerve. Yeah, that kind of. Oh, cool.
But yeah, I was just going to do the intro, and then that way you guys can just run with it from there.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm going to keep most of what we've already done, but as far as like a formal introduction to this podcast, I had HV on for episode 22 of Alienation, when I was the only host of the podcast, and now we're in a new era with James being my co-host. And this is a special episode because James is actually the one that introduced me to HV's Twitter account. And a couple of the main things that I try to do with the podcast. One is just allow people to tell their story, to emphasize our stories, because our stories are so central to all of our lives. Like our story is kind of what makes our character, and then the other part of that is I just like exploring different worldviews, especially ones that aren't already aligned with mine. And kind of like melding different worldviews and taking pieces that I like from other people's worldview and sharpening and strengthening my own. And when I came across HV's Twitter account, two things especially stood out. Her emphasis on illusions and her emphasis on the way that colors are used in manufacturing illusions. Two stories or memories from my life to kind of shed light on why that was so appealing to me. As James knows, I was like a math prodigy growing up. So I took geometry really young. I was like in 4th grade, and I was with a gifted teacher. Like she only taught gifted children. Like that was what her role was in the school. And she gave me this book called Optical Illusions. And it's one of my first, not one of my first memories, but it's one of the first memories that like really hits me hard, like viscerally. And I just remember going through that book and being like, simple geometric lines and shapes put together and arranged in a certain way can fucking make your mind melt. Like it doesn't make any sense. Optical illusions are truly fucking mind-bending things, and you can do them with such simple lines and shapes. But then when you start bringing in the third dimension and the color spectrum, it can get really magical. But that's like the nice side of it, right? Like it also can get very, very deceitful. And you know, that's story
when that
one.
power is used that way,
right? And so
Right.
story two, leading into like, you know, how the Matrix is just so perfect, and like every character is almost like put in its designated role in such a like perfect but sometimes horribly perfect way. You know, and James can attest to this as well. I love having him on because he can attest to all of my crazy childhood stories. But like, my dad sold paint growing up. That's literally what his job was for me growing up. So I was always interested in like how different colors applied to different mediums can change moods. You know, during the younger part of my life, he was specifically selling automotive paint. And I always thought it was really crazy that insurance companies actually changed their rate. If you had a red car, you know, or a certain like flashy color car, you actually have to pay a higher premium for that. And so these little things throughout my life, especially, you know, I went to my dad's store every day after work. That's where the bus dropped me off because my house was so rural that the bus didn't even go down there. So I would go, and I was surrounded by paint every day after school in different colors. And so these ideas, these the way that you, HV, even just over a Twitter account, it's like I can pick up on your it's funny because your name is Human Vibration, and I'm picking up on more than just the words when you tweet. I can feel what you're trying to you know, what you're trying to send out, what you're expressing.
Everything's a vibration. If you that's why symbols are so important and powerful and exist across time, because they pack and pass a ton of information. Whether or not we totally comprehend or even comprehend at all what those packets of information are, that doesn't necessarily matter. It's still getting to us. It's still, I think that's why they like flood us with these certain signs and symbols. I really love that you started with childhood as like your anchor for how your person developed. And you also mentioned our stories. And I think a lot of our stories get cemented in our childhood. A lot of our adult situations and adult issues and problems, I think, can be transferred back in a way. If we were to really roll back or try to layer over time, I think that we could see some pretty significant strings from our childhood puppeting our adult self. So the things that we go through. But that's also like, I think that childhood knowledge is so incredible. I think kids are magical. They really are. You mentioned magic too. You know, magic goes both ways. I think magic that is used against us is sleight of hand, trick of the eye. That's what I think magic is from that, because that's
when you say that, it makes me think of that movie, Now You See Me.
Now you see me. Now you see me.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like, now you see me, now you don't. And it's like with a instantaneous wafting of some sort of illusory magic. You know, what appears to exist can poof, no longer exists. And that's kind of what like the linchpin of all the magic shows are. It's like, here it is, and now it's not, or like it doesn't, and here it is, you know. So that's kind of like, but the ultimate, you know, as an audience member, we're told this is illusion. This is not magic. This is sleight of hand. They are tricking us, but it looks so real. It looks pretty good. But we're kind of told that is one premise of magic. Okay. That said, I also think there is a real magic that is what we tap into as kids and what we can tap into for the rest of our life, which is this cosmic, unreally explainable. I don't think I have the right vocabulary for it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It is the interconnected energy between all human beings, all living things, really. Hug a tree, you'll feel something. Go outside with your shoes off in the grass, your socks off, shoes off, go. You will pull energy from the ground into your body. It's pretty extraordinary how severed we are from like how we should be living.
I feel like what you're describing is that genuine love that we were talking about at the beginning, like that connectedness between all living things. The divine
we ignore it so
love.
much.
We do.
Right.
We ignore it.
We ignore it until we start to. I mean, you bringing up childhood is perfect